believe very strongly in the fact that we carry the child in us, and that child is something that I feel we should be consciously holding on to. Adults should realize that actually we don't know everything, and that it's okay to say that to children, that we don't know, and so that we are together discovering certain things. Libraries can be refuges, libraries can be windows and doors that lead you to new places. Libraries, as Maya Angelou said, is a rainbow in the sky,
Hi, Samina, and welcome to the About Her Show, a show where we get trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us. To tell us about their successes, failures, ups and downs, challenges, all of it. So that not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire other women. Women who are listening in or watching the episode, women who have dreams, ambitions, but for some reason, have not been able to follow those dreams. It's something holding them back. So we want them to get inspired and, like I said, get out of whatever is holding them back. And along with women, we also get men on the show, men who champion such trailblazing women, because we believe that for a truly gender inclusive world, men and women need to be allies in this journey. So, looking at your profile, the kind of work that you do in terms of, literature, writing, and you are, right there at that threshold where you are influencing the lives of children, because children are the citizens of tomorrow. So if we can raise them in the right way, give them the right values, the grounding and all of that, then obviously, we are paving the way for, better citizens in the future. So of course you had to be on this show. And like I said, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. I feel a bit like imposter syndrome, because I don't know if I'm a trailblazer, but it's really, I feel privileged that you thought of including me on the show. Thank you. And I hope that, that we are able to sort of talk about things that maybe help other people to see how to navigate.
Yes, I'm sure, because sometimes, it's just that one little word, one sentence, that one trigger, which is all that somebody needs. So we don't know. We are making an attempt, and let us see how it pans out, right? Yeah. All right. So let's dive in and begin. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's start from the starting, like your journey. So my question is that what sparked your interest in storytelling and led you into documentary film making and writing for children?
So I guess the earliest things would be the what I experienced in my childhood, my love for reading. My parents were readers. My mother actually introduced me, I think, I don't know whether she saw that I wanted to read first, or she took me first to a bookstore. I don't know which came first. But I have a very strong memory of going to choose a book myself when I was probably 6, because I remember the book. Enid Blyton, Bimbo and Topsy, from a store in Khan Market, Fakir Chand. I remember it so clearly. So I think the earliest kind of reasons would be that what I experienced in my childhood and my love to read, and I was always carrying a book. So that was it. But I think as I grew, I was very fortunate to find people, friends, comrades who kind of nurtured this interest in storytelling, which is it's about actually experience, and the sharing of experience. Some of it becomes narrative, and some of it is just the experience of the moment and sharing how you feel and what that makes you think about the world.
Right.
So I was really fortunate that I found people like that, who then we were sort of talking. We were talking the same language. We were interested in the same things. And that, I think, is really important, finding your people that helps you to articulate who you are. And also to kind of develop those interests, abilities, all of those things. So I
Right.
think that's how sort of my interest came in working with the arts. Yeah.
Okay. And then how did you navigate towards writing for children? Because, if
Hmm.
we look at your writing also, then much of your work uses the lens of childhood and identity. So, like you said, it was your mother probably, who obviously introduced you to the joys of reading. So then my question is that how has your own experience of growing up shaped the stories you choose to tell? So how did you come to choose children, and then how did your experience as a child, get you to tell the kind of stories that you do?
So it's very hard to kind of figure out what it was that, like, why I was drawn to creating stuff for children and working for children. I think that, like, I can't quite pinpoint exactly what, but I can look at in hindsight at the things that I did, and why I held on to that desire. I can say that.
Hmm.
So I do remember, for example, that when I was studying in Jamia for my mass communication degree, my MA, many of the projects that I did were for children, about children. Now, exactly what it was, why I picked those, I can't. But I can tell you this, that I think the reason I held on to that choice, that desire, was because I believe very strongly, and this has become clear to me over the last few years in the kind of work that I've done, that I believe very strongly in the fact that we carry the child in us, and that child is something that I feel we should be consciously holding on to, and because I think it gives us a way to look at the world with wonder and awe.
Yeah.
And I think that because of the times that we are living in, it's very easy to feel despair. But I think if we are able to tap into that, then, and if we are able to tap into also like connections that we can build with other children, then I think the possibility of navigating a really harsh world is easier. So I think I held on to it for those reasons. And that is why, and it just grew over time. It sort of like developed in a certain way. And I wanted to be able to create work that I felt children could relate to, would be sort of excited by, it would make them think, it would make them feel in, like good and bad ways.
Yeah.
And I think that I tapped into my own childhood, of course. I think that, anybody who works for children, who writes things, we have to remember our childhoods. I think we all do, but I think particularly for us, those of us who work with children and want to create art for them, that to be aware of how our childhood experiences have shaped us, what they made us feel, what they pushed us to think about. I think it's really important for us to be quite self-reflexive about that.
Hmm.
And I am that. I do remember. So I think that my childhood, I mean, I think my memory is pretty good about the kind of experiences that I had, and I remember key things and think, particular moments in which I felt a certain thing.
Hmm.
So that's one part of it. And then I think the kind of work that I do has also been shaped by my childhood, because, I have a mixed name, I have a mixed kind of background. And I was always asked this question as
Hmm.
a child,
Hmm.
that, oh, what is it? How is it that your name is Samina Mishra? Are you Hindu? Are you Muslim? This question would come.
Yeah.
Like, strangers felt that it's okay to ask this question.
Hmm.
And as a child, of course, so I was brought up as a Muslim. So I used to just like say, no, I'm a Muslim.
Hmm.
Uh, but it was something that made me think,
Right.
And
Right.
so that has really shaped a lot of the work that I've done, particularly also for children, because this idea of that there are no, actually, I believe that there are no simple families. Every family will have some little complicated story if we are able to actually make place for it and think about it. So identities are not simple, not anymore in
Yeah.
2025, and so I feel it's really important to be able to put forward stories where these complicated identities are also normal, that they're not extraordinary, and that they're not like something which, are we can't slot, and, we have to try to make a choice, and, all of those things. So,
Okay.
yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, very interesting actually. So, yes, I think childhood, of course, it governs a lot of what we do and the way we've been raised. Sometimes we don't realize, and even when we are raising our own children, we don't realize what is the kind of influence that we are having on them. And I always believe that it is not only what you tell the child, it is also what the child imbibes. Children are extremely observant. They can see what's going around, and unknowingly, unconsciously, they do imbibe a lot of it. So I can see that the journey started from there, and then of course the desire to keep the child alive in you, that's probably also one of the reasons which made you kind of gravitate towards this. So tell me, yes, of course you are in the space of media and education, but as a woman who's working in this space, have there been moments when your gender influenced how your work was received? I mean, positively, negatively, or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that, of course, being a woman has shaped my career. But I think it's a kind of like, there's this term which is thrown a lot around now, intersectionality.
Mm,
But it isn't just a term, because I think that, like, say, with someone like me, my experience is also so influenced by my class background and the privileges that I have been afforded,
mm,
the kind of education, the kind of spaces that I'm able to access with ease. So I think that it's a combination of all of those things.
mm,
I do think, like, certain kinds of choices perhaps came to me because I was a woman.
mm,
When I started doing independent work as a filmmaker, some of my films have been around the idea of gender, and they came from the development sector, which, in the 90s, there was a big kind of push for non-governmental organizations to try to kind of intervene in the social sector and to build partnerships with government. And so there was a lot of media that was being created at that time, coming out of that impulse. And I think that many women filmmakers got an opportunity to make films because of that. And I do think that some of the work that I got in those years came from the fact that I was also a woman, but
mm.
not only that, in terms of how things have been received, I'm not really sure that I have, faced anything negatively. And I think that that again is linked to other things in my intersectional identity, privilege, Um, Positively, yes, because there will always be some people who think, like, oh, you're a woman and you've been able to do this. So that you get, it's quite easy to still find that.
Right, right.
So that definitely has happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that awestruck moment when you think, okay, she's a woman and she did it. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Yeah. Oh, like, oh, so you're traveling on your own, like if you're traveling for work in
Yeah, yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah.
parts of, yeah, that kind of thing, which,
Yeah.
yeah, it still happens.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, going back to children and the books that you write for them. Now, your books, like, if I may name a couple of them, Shabana and the Baby Goat and Nida Finds a Way.
Yeah.
Now, they basically reflect everyday childhood experiences, right? So, my question is that how do you approach writing for children without talking down to them? Because, a lot of adults have this habit. I think it comes very naturally that when you're talking to a child, you talk down. You don't, kind of treat them as an equal. So, how do you do that without doing that?
So I think curiosity is the first thing, that one has to feel curious about the person that you are writing about, the person that you're meeting, and it should be the same if it is a child. I feel that one should be curious about that character, that person, and it doesn't matter to me that whether it's a child or an adult. So I think that that's the first thing. Uh, I don't know, maybe that's the second thing, actually, because I think the first thing should be that adults should realize that actually we don't know everything, and that it's okay to say that to children, that we don't know, and so that we are together discovering certain things. And I think so, if we can foreground that, that awareness in us and we are kind of reflective about it, then I think we can avoid talking down to them, because then we are just two people together trying to discover something.
Right.
So I think that in the writing also, for me, that is something that I try to be conscious about when I am in the field, because I do a lot of work also with kids on the ground. So I'm very conscious about that, trying to kind of like that, so that it is more, it's not so much about me telling them things, but me sharing certain experiences which have led me to think about certain things or to feel certain things, and then together trying to make sense of that.
Right.
And I think I try to bring that into the writing as well, so that when I am thinking about the characters, I'm thinking about what happens to them, I try to retain that same curiosity of two people rather than something being age related. Now, having said this, sounds like maybe a good answer, but it's not. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I'm not a child, right? So I am 56 years old,
Right.
and I am writing for sometimes 6-year-olds. So it's something that I have to kind of like work at, So I feel that the process of creating something, that's really like the rigor of it is in asking ourselves the questions. So why am I writing this? Why is the character like that? Why is she doing this? Would she really say this? Like constantly asking yourselves questions in that writing process, or in whatever it is that you're creating. I think that that's really critical. And the questions that you ask have to come out of this kind of thinking that you have done or that you're doing. You're always in the process of doing,
Right.
like what does it mean to be in the world as an adult, as a child, thinking about those things. So yeah.
Wonderful. You put it so well, and so many things came out of your answer. Like when you said that, I mean, you cannot be telling things to children just because you are that age. And, it's like if you only tell them and maybe you don't show it, or maybe you also don't get involved in the process, they will never understand. So you see, I'm in the, the, like say, the world of academia, and I teach, but of course not little children, young, I mean older ones. But I also always feel that till the time I cannot exemplify, or till the time I cannot walk the talk myself, I cannot drive home the point. Even with my own children, if I tell them to do something, like a mother always used to say that never tell your child to do something, tell them that this is an option along with any other option that you can think of. But I feel this
Yeah,
is the right way to do it. So up to
yeah,
you. So I think
yeah,
it
yeah.
is important to realize that children are okay, they're younger, but they do have a mind of their own. And we have to sometimes discover things together. Just because I'm
No,
an
and I
adult.
think,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you made a very important point about agency. We
Hmm.
don't give children agency. And
Yes.
what you have said is that to be able to allow the child to choose. Now, of course, there will be, I mean, this is not a blanket thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there will be times where we do have to tell them, but it is the manner in how we tell them that, this is what needs to be done. But I think you've made a very important point that we have to give children the right to choose,
Yeah.
because just because they're children does not mean that they are incapable of knowing how it is that they feel,
Absolutely.
And I think that has to begin quite early,
Yes.
that giving that child that space. So whether it comes from choosing what to eat, so you can offer possibilities that this is there and this is there and this is there, instead of just saying you have to eat this because it's
Yes.
good for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
so yeah, that kind of thing.
And I think, 9 times out of 10, whatever we term as disobedience comes from the words that we use, that you have to do it. When you come from a space where you're trying to control someone, so whether it's an adult or a child, I think it works the same way for both. So rather than trying to tell them that this is what you have to do, make it seem as though this is one of the many options that you have.
Yeah.
Right.
And that then becomes a process of dialogue, no?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this idea of talking and listening, that's really important, because if we don't listen to the other, we can never actually really be living together in the world, you know?
Absolutely.
So we have to learn to like be able to talk, and sometimes the differences will not be resolved.
Yeah, that's fair.
Child will want something and you will not want it. Then we have to figure out on a case by case basis, how does it work? And
Absolutely.
sometimes the desire for autocracy will be there, and it comes, we want to be able to say,
Yeah,
just do it because I say so.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, yeah, that's the process that you have to also question yourself. And sometimes it'll be you and sometimes it'll be them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, you founded the Magic Key Center for the Arts and Childhood. Now, what gap were you trying to address? And what has the response been like from both children and educators?
So I believe very strong because I work with the arts, and I believe very strongly in the place of the arts in everybody's lives,
Mm-hmm.
but particularly for children and in the education space, because like I said, I think it can open up the possibility of understanding big ideas, which are often abstract ideas, in very visceral ways, because you can tap into how you are feeling, and you can tap into then how that what that feeling makes you think, and so you see that relationship, and the arts allow us to do that. I've been so for me, the Magic Key Center came out of that desire to be able to. People used to ask me to come and do workshops and things like that, and I used to do that. So it came from that experience of seeing that there is a need for that with children.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that came from outside of the school space, because I was doing it in, those sort of non-formal spaces. And so I thought that, to be able to do this in a kind of slightly more sustained way, a more consolidated way, I set that up. And that the conversation needs to be, it's not just that we need to work with children, but that we need to also work with those adults who are in the child's life,
Yeah.
doing those things. So teachers, parents, other kinds of caregivers. So it came from that desire that we work at both ends, with adults who are working with children and also with children. I think that, the kind of work that I've been able to do with the Magic Key, like there are two projects which are in a way sort of on one has kind of come to an end, but I hope to do other things with it. So one is this Hindustani poetry podcast, which started as a kind of education research project and was about like listening to children's voices on citizenship, on liberty, equality, and fraternity. And the other one is The Incredible Child, which was like an arts-based program with Afghan refugee children in Khirki at a center for the refugee community there, Simurg Center. And both of these, like, I have seen the children respond to that work. I've just come back from Jharkhand, where I did like an outreach workshop with the Hindustani project, and I see like how the kids. It took about like for the first 30 minutes they were like not at all talking. The government school children, not at all responding. But once we get past that, then the responses really start coming, and they don't have a chance because they don't have a chance to actually talk like that. Nobody's asked those kinds of questions and said that there are no right and wrong answers. We are just only interested in hearing what you have to say. So by the end of the 2 days, like, this organization had made certificates and all, and there were some government officials. So I gave a few, and then after that, they like the government officials were giving it. But the kids, some of them, when they were coming, they were like, ma'am, aap dijiye. So
Oh,
I could tell, no, that
yeah,
that
yeah.
and it was a very limited 2 days. So
Hmm.
it was, they are responding to this idea that someone has allowed them to
Yes,
express. And
yes.
then we work also with like the hands, and they do like, like I'm not like, I can't draw and I'm not an artist like that, but we do collage and all of that.
Hmm.
So that material experience also, no, there's play in it. So
Yes,
these two things together, that ability to express freely, the ability to play, I think they respond really like very well to that. So I'm seeing now, like it's been some years, and I see this every time. Like
yes, yes.
children form a kind of connection with you, but it's not about me. It's about this thing that we are doing together, you know?
Yes, and you're giving them
Uh,
the opportunity, and that is what makes
yeah,
the difference. Yeah.
yeah. It's a space that, that lets them make those, relationships. The adults also, like they respond like when they see this. And I do workshops with teachers. We've done it with Hindustani also. They all, like, so many of them will say this, that, listening to the children's expressions, and they say that, oh, we forget that actually children are able to think about these things that we think are like big ideas. So they respond like that. Then they also, many of them will say that, it has taken us back to our childhood. So to go back to what I was saying, that, that we are all carrying that child,
Yeah.
and that, if we are able to tap into that, it allows us to see the world in another way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to see possibility in the world and hope in the world.
Right.
So they say that a lot. And I think that, I did a workshop also in Jharkhand with, educators, and they said that, seeing this, actually doing the work themselves, that they can then do with children, it takes them, like, they see the challenges of that. Like, it's not just because you're an adult, it doesn't all happen easily,
No,
so
no.
they see those parallels, and I think that that's a really important thing that happens.
I think, it's a very, how should I say, a holistic way of looking at it. You're giving the child the opportunity to express, and then you're also
Hmm.
making the adults see what happens when you do that. So it's like a kind of a win-win for everyone. Everybody
I
sees
hope
the
so.
positives, I'm sure, because, children need to be given that opportunity. And, many times, in fact, I think most of the times, adults don't give that opportunity because they come from a space of, I am the adult, so I know best, so we don't give that opportunity. So the fact that you are giving it to them obviously makes a lot of difference.
Like in Jharkhand, when I told them to start the art exercise, I
Huh.
gave them paper, I gave them crayons, and I said, now you just take whatever color you want and you fill it, because we were working on this idea of freedom. So
Hmm.
I said, yeah, but you're free to pick what you want and you fill it. And they were like, ma'am, sirf color bharna hai, kuch drawing nahi banani, you know, because no one has asked them ever to just play.
Yes.
Like when you're in the classroom space, you're like, color within the lines, respond to some particular thing and then make that realistically, all of that. So that it just was like, for 5 minutes, they didn't know how to do it. I
Yeah.
said, just take it and just like this. And that, even that, they're like little nervous to begin with.
Yeah.
And then, the joy of just filling a paper with color.
Even I can feel it while you're talking, because you're given that,
Yeah.
that freedom, the opportunity to do what you want to do. That, the
Yeah.
thought in itself is so liberating. Forget the actual
Yeah.
activity, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, you also taught, the IB film program and curated, children's cinema at MAMI in the past. So again, how did these roles as educator and as a curator inform your own storytelling practice?
So for me, they are all kind of, intertwined. I
Hmm.
went into the classroom space. I went into teaching because of the work that I did, because of my practice outside, So that's how I started teaching. I taught first at, Jamia and some other kind of like college level media and film schools. And it was because of my experience with practice, and I was taking that into the classroom and sharing that. And for me, that in some ways, the classroom space makes me, not made me, because I think it continues to do that in whatever practice that I'm doing. It makes me sharper in my articulation,
Mhm.
because I have to be able to communicate to the students what, like, even responding to their work, no? I
Hmm.
have to be able to say why something, I think that something is working and something isn't working.
Right.
It makes me think about also this place of subjectivity, that just because I'm the teacher and I'm saying that this works for me does not mean that that is the only way to do it. And that other people may respond actually to something else, but you have to know what you respond to and why you are creating something. So all of that really sharpens your own articulation, and then you take that back into your own practice, no? Because then you are asking yourself those questions. Because
Yeah.
like I said, it's about process, and that asking, interrogating yourself in that process. So if you have experienced that, from the other side, then when you come back to practice, you actually are carrying that with you. So why am I making this choice? Why am I cutting this sequence in this kind of way and not another kind of way? You're asking yourself that because you have asked the student that already. So it kind of like, feeds into each other. It's, I don't see them as separate in that sense. The curation part also is in a way connected, because it's in terms of the big idea, to be able to step back and see what the frame is, what is guiding a certain sort of, I mean, you curate to be able to put forward a certain understanding of the world, and what enables you to build that understanding, because the world is full of so many different things. And even if you're curating a package of films, so many different films to choose from. So why do you pick a certain one and you leave a certain one out? So again, you have to articulate sharply for yourself, and therefore for the audience,
Right.
what is guiding that? What is it that you're guiding them towards thinking about? What is it that you're guiding them to feel? And you have to ask yourself those questions, because there are many beautiful things, but you don't just put all the beautiful things together. You're doing it in a certain way, no? So what is guiding that process?
Yeah.
So I think curation also is about process a lot for me. Yeah.
And understanding the process. I think,
Yes.
the cause, effect,
Yeah.
all of it, I think that makes a lot of difference. And in fact, I think all the difference. So tell me, when it comes to creating content for children, especially young girls, so how can we move beyond stereotypes and offer empowering, nuanced narratives?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the most important thing, to be able to offer layered narratives, because, like I said, intersectionality. So how do we actually, instead of it just being a term that is thrown about, how do we actually represent that intersectionality? That we are a combination of many things. We are a combination of, the class background that we come from, the fact that we are women and not men. Our location, where we are, in the world, within India, where we are, so many things, the language that we are most comfortable with. So how do we find ways to show that, So for me, it's like, it's with every project, it's like a challenge, and like something that I have to think about. I mean, I'll answer this by like say using the example of Nida Finds a Way or Shabana, the two that you mentioned. Like when I was writing Shabana, I just wanted to write this story about a girl. Children. I love animals, but I think most children also love animals as a way that they can connect to animals. Not all children,
Yeah.
but a lot of children.
Hmm.
But I thought, like I wanted it to be like a rural child, because I travel a lot, and for my documentary work, I've been to many kinds of villages. So I wanted this, like, so rural children rarely have dogs and cats as pets, but they have relationships with animals, and I wanted to be able to just write a story, which is a fun story about this relationship, and a kind of friendship between a child and an animal. And I love goats, so I picked a goat. And so, and also I picked Shabana because I wanted there to be, it's a story about a child and a goat and a friendship between them. But I wanted there to be this element of her coming from a Muslim community, because and for that not to be something which is actually taking the story forward. The story is not about her being Muslim at all. The story is about something else, but she just happens to be Muslim.
Right.
And so that's how Shavana and the baby goat became about Shavana and the baby goat. It could well have been, Himani and the baby goat, but it was, right? And that's a choice. So when I say process and ask interrogating during the process, that's a question that I ask myself, that, so why am I doing this? And I'm doing it because I want to be able to put out a representation of Muslim girlhood, which is based in reality, but also offers us something which shows us that it's Muslim girlhood is very similar to any other kind of girlhood in
Absolutely.
the rural space, right? So I wanted, so these are questions that I'm asking myself. And then, when I wrote the story, so it's just like the escapades of the two of them.
Mm.
After I wrote the story and they were working on the art, I had not actually thought about this myself, but the publisher and the artist asked me this question, which is a very important question, that, oh, how should we like draw her? Like, how do you imagine her? So I said some things about, oh, she's like this and her hair is curly and blah, blah, blah. But they asked me, but what about the scarf? Does she wear a headscarf? Does she wear the burqa? And I had not thought of it. And that's what I mean, that interrogation in the process is such an important question. So I thought about it, and I still remember I was in a meeting, I was teaching, and I was in a school, but it was one of those meetings in which I didn't have anything really to do. So I was sitting in that, and I was looking at my emails, and I saw this email pop in, and I thought, I have not thought about this. And then I thought, what should it be? And I drew upon my experience of, so it was a kind of, I think it was like, it's not clear, but I think I had set it in a kind of Western UP village. So I thought back about my travels in those kinds of villages and the children that I'd seen, the girls that I'd seen, Muslim girls. And so I said, yeah, you know what we'll do? We will make the veil inconsistent, because I have seen that. So when she's going to school and she's going to Quran class, we will give her the headscarf. But otherwise, she's not. When she's doing other things with the goat and she's playing with a friend, she doesn't have it, because that inconsistency I have seen. But also for me, that inconsistency was important because it's a way that of saying that people are negotiating this in different ways.
Yes.
Like it doesn't always mean, the veil doesn't always mean that they are being oppressed.
Correct.
Sometimes they are doing it, but they're also finding their way of, like, it allows them to do other things. So to keep that conversation alive, that, we have to look at it with nuance.
Right.
And so that's what I mean about, layered storytelling, so that my attempt at layered storytelling comes in this kind of way, that
more realistic in that sense, because this is how it is.
So I draw upon that, my experience of the real world and of children's lived experiences in the world. But of course, it was also imaginative, and it can sometimes offer a possibility which maybe at this point doesn't exist in the real world, but it can offer us that to think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Samina, my next question. You're also part of Torchlight, which is a journal about libraries and reading, both of which I am like in love with. So the question is, what do books and libraries represent to you, especially in the context of a child's growing world?
I think libraries, people said it much better than I can. Libraries can be refuges. Libraries can be windows and doors that lead you to new places. Libraries, as Maya Angelou said, is a rainbow in the sky. It can. They're places, particularly for some children, who are not able to perhaps navigate the world very easily. There are spaces that can give them that, the tools to be able to do that. When we were working on Torchlight, so Torchlight also, we are not bringing it out any longer. But when we were working on it, one of the things that we did for a while was to be able to do just a small little snippet of people saying what libraries are to them. And the very first one, because, we had just come together like that to try to make Torchlight, and it was not funded at all. So I remember asking my son this question. He was maybe 13 at that time, and something that, what is a library for you? And he said, library is like a flame. And I think that that's what it can be. So he went on to explain why he thought it, but I think that that's what it can be, that it can ignite something. So for me also, as a child, I think I have had the advantage of being able to sort of be in libraries and, discover books which I may not have discovered otherwise. So I think libraries are really, really important. But in recent years, library activists and educators across the country are doing such wonderful things by being able to make libraries a space where all kinds of people can come. So, you don't have to be of a certain kind of class background.
Mm.
It's a community library, anybody can come. And that gives you that opportunity also to mix, which is becoming harder and harder for children because lives are becoming so much more governed by the location that of your life. No, you live in a gated community, you go to a certain school, other kinds of people don't come there, that kind of thing. The community library is able to do that, and that's a wonderful thing, I think. But also that there is so much else that they are doing with that library. It's becoming a place to introduce children to different kinds of art forms, for example, and taking off from those art forms, the kinds of ideas that are embedded in them, to talk about ideas. So I think libraries are actually wonderful, wonderful spaces, and everybody should have the ability to walk into one. Like you want to disappear for a while, you should have the ability to find a library near you to do that. Yeah.
Yes. So actually, I remember, when I was growing up, there were so many libraries around. Forget the school and college libraries, but even otherwise, there were libraries within the areas. And in between, this concept, in a way, started dying down. But now I have seen that within the gated communities also, people are becoming aware of the fact that this is something that children need to be provided with. So they are mushrooming up. And so we have a library here, and I'm a big, like, sometimes you have books that I mean, not the ones that I've read, but sometimes I end up buying multiple copies. So I go and give them, because I just feel,
Right.
that you have to spread this word, spread this love, and whatever little each one of us can do, to revive this.
Yeah.
I think.
And a library also teaches you that you don't necessarily have to own
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
able to access knowledge, to be able to access beauty, to be able to just access entertainment. You don't have to own it,
absolutely,
you can
absolutely,
share.
absolutely. And that's
That's
a very, very important life lesson. Yeah. All right. So now, in your creative practice, you are playing multiple roles. You are a writer, filmmaker, teacher, curator, all of that. So, how do you balance all these roles and then still, make space for personal creativity?
So, like I said, for me, they're not like separate boxes, and they're all like overlapping and intertwining. And something I do will lead to something else in another form. And, so I don't see them as being like contradictory in any way. They are all like connected to that larger practice that I do. And it's really about wanting to say something, and what is the right way of saying it. What is the medium, what is the right way of doing that. So sometimes it is about creating something, writing something, making a film, but sometimes it is about talking to others about it. And so that takes that, the teaching or the curation practice. So I feel that in that sense, all of it is my personal practice. I don't see it as separate. Having said that, I do feel very much, like the desire, because I like to make things, I like to create.
Mm.
So that desire to make is in a way a little bit different, so when I am doing the other stuff, like now I'm doing outreach with Hindustani, and I have not like written something for a while, or have not, like, I'm not working on a like kind of project which is with video or something like that. Then I feel this, that, oh my god, I'm not doing it, I'm not, it's been too long. So like I haven't made a film. I made my last film was in 2021. Okay. But after that, I've been writing, so I haven't felt like, I'm not doing like the making part of it. I've been writing, I've been doing like the Incredible Child gives me the opportunity to, like create small things out of it and all of that.
Mm.
But at this point, I mean, this feeling has been coming to me like, okay, I haven't done, I haven't written something, I haven't made something. So that feeling is actually a little bit different, although I see the whole thing as an interconnected practice.
So, if I say that it is in a way that the desire to do this or the creativity in you, you use different mediums to express this,
I
right?
do.
And like it is for, like they say, different strokes for different folks. Maybe different mediums, you can address different people or cater to different people, because somebody may want to watch, somebody may want to listen, somebody may want to read. So in a
Yeah.
way, that entire creative process or whatever you're creating, you're making it available in different ways to different people depending on how they want to consume it.
Yeah, I mean, the audience is one part of it who is
Yes.
going to receive the work. But the other thing is, I think, like, what is the thing itself?
Yeah, yeah.
What form does it lend itself to?
Correct.
So, for example, when I did the podcast with the Hindustani project, so the Hindustani project started as a research project. So I was working with children in groups of kids in three different parts of India, and they were doing art and writing and all of that. But while I was finishing, and I was finishing the project, we made a website and I was writing some pieces, which got published and things. And the idea came to me that because I was working with children's poetry, that why don't I turn it into a podcast? So I didn't think of video for it. I
Hmm.
thought of it as an audio form.
Hmm.
So this question, because it was poetry, because it could be lend itself to spoken word. So that's why I did that. So this thing of like, what is the thing and what form does it really lend itself to? That too, not
That,
just the receipt.
yeah. So tell me, Samina, through your work, do you consciously try to amplify voices of women and girls, particularly those who may not have, the traditional access to platforms?
I mean, I would like to think that I managed to make place for voices that are less heard, more sort of voices that come more from the margins, that I do, go into those spaces to try to find a way to bring those experiences to those who otherwise would not meet them. uh, but I think that I'm also very conscious that I come from a certain position, and that anything that I put out is my kind of is I'm like the filter in that sense, right? So I can't speak on behalf of them. So what I put out has to be about the experience of me interacting with them.
Hmm.
If there are if they are, when I say them in this way, I mean, what I mean is like the marginal spaces. So that's really important. Like I cannot speak on behalf of them because they need to have their voices amplified. So I think that is why for me doing the other sort of the education work and all is important, because it should enable children, girls, to be able to speak for themselves. And I speak about how we have met and the encounter that we have had.
Hmm.
So, in that sense, of course, their voices are also part of it,
Hmm.
but it is coming through a kind of filter, and that I have to make that very clear, that it is not that I'm just making place.
Hmm.
Although I am also, because when I talk to children, and I made this podcast which has children's voices, their words in it. So in the sense, I am also making place for them. But it's very important for me that when people receive it, that they see that it is coming from this kind of interaction. You
Right.
know, that's important, because I can't. It's not about ventriloquism. I cannot
Yes.
speak for
Yes.
that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in a way, yes, you are amplifying, you are giving them an opportunity, but of course, you are not speaking on behalf of them. So, that has
Um,
to be, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
very okay. So, tell me about this other project of yours, Soundfields, which, the experimental listening project you had co created. So,
Yeah.
what possibilities do you think sound opens up that visuals sometimes cannot?
Mm. So, Soundfiles I'm part of a group called the International Association of Women in Radio and Television, which is it started in Scandinavia. And it's a very old organization, and it has chapters across the world. And the India chapter is now, we are more than 20 years old. And we do a film festival here. So the chapters do different things in different countries. In India, because many of us who are part of this are documentary filmmakers, so we started a film festival that is held around March 8th. And so Iram Gufran and I actually, we worked on Soundphiles together. And it was just at a meeting, we were all talking about this, that, as film practitioners, we don't get to talk about sound enough, and sound is so critical in making film. And from that, this conversation kind of grew into like, what would happen if we were to create something in which we take the visual away so that we bring the focus on sound. And so it grew from that, and that ability to kind of like listen together, the way that, when radio technology first came, and neighborhoods or homes would just have like, select homes would have a radio, and people would gather for that, news broadcast. In that way, that we don't listen collectively anymore. Now, of course, we don't watch collectively anymore also. Everything is so individualized. So we thought, what would it do, And it just came from that experiment. And I think what we learned from that is that communal listening space is actually also a very valuable one. It cannot be a very extended one. So, we worked with, pieces that were from like 2 minutes long to about 7 or 8 minutes, but not longer than that. Because it's hard, to hold that space in the darkness with no picture for very long. So we never played any, we never had, like we would have conversations after playing maybe 2 pieces. So maybe 14, 15 minutes at the most, like that. And I think what it does is, like, we feel so much with our senses. Our senses are so important to us as human beings. I think what it does is, it tells you what is possible with sound that is not possible with the picture. The ability to see something which is not there. Even in film, it works like that. The frame guides the picture, and you are kind of, that's your border. But sound is limitless even in film. So it can be sound which is off screen, but you understand it as a viewer of film. You understand that it's sound which is coming from beyond the frame. So I think that sensory understanding, just working with sound on its own, it builds that awareness and understanding in us. Yeah. And that's what I think the Soundphiles experiment for us did that and audiences actually responded to that, because there is so much that we are watching all the time. We are being bombarded with stuff. So it becomes like a pause, actually, and you're focusing only on one sense. Yeah.
Which is actually, I mean, you've put it so beautifully, and also kind of, made me think about it, because, it does happen that what is visually in front of you, you tend to focus on that, the picture, the movie, or whatever it is. But when you're just listening, like, the world of podcasts is doing to us, and you're actually listening to the sound of the sound, which I think is so important, because, I mean, like, that is also one of your senses, and then you're making use of only that. And in a way, the experience is not getting diluted.
No, it's another experience, and yeah, we must be open to all kinds of experiences, and I don't think there should be a hierarchy in that sense of,
Absolutely. All right. So, Samina, tell me, for young women who are aspiring to work in the creative arts, whether writing, filmmaking, or education, or whatever, what's that one piece of advice you wish someone had given you early on?
Manage money better.
Well, I think that we all needed.
The arts, working in the arts is a fraught space. If you're working in the arts in a kind of freelance, independent capacity, it's even more fraught. So, yeah, I think that, think like it's very important to do the thing. I mean, because all my life I have worked at, wanting to do the thing that I want to do. And that's really, it has given me so much joy, and I do not regret it at all. But yes, I think little bit practicality in terms of managing money.
Yeah.
like thinking about money, and that it's like we will not get by only on love and fresh air, particularly when you're in your 50s.
Yes, absolutely not. So I think
Definitely
that
that.
even otherwise, when it comes to women, that is something that needs to be impressed upon from a very early age, that you need to know how
Financial.
to earn money and then how to manage that money. I think that is so,
Yes,
so critical, which I think,
very important.
most people don't do. All right. So, Samina, while we've come to the end of the conversation, we do have the rapid fire round, which is 5
Ooh.
questions, 5 quick answers. So, are you ready for that?
Okay,
Yep.
let's have a go.
All right. So, the first one book from your childhood that you still love.
Oh gosh. I guess rapid fire rounds are terrible. I'm always stuck when I'm thinking of, like, people ask you to make lists of even 10 books, and I'm completely like, oh, I don't know. And I get a bit crazy. But like, because I spoke to you about Bimbo and Topsy, let me just say Bimbo and Topsy because that's coming to me right now in the rapid fire.
Fair enough.
It was about a cat and a dog and the friendship between them.
Yes, and we know that you love animals, so there it goes, right?
Yeah.
All right, the next one. The best thing about writing for children.
That it lets me hold on to the child in me and the possibility of wonder and awe.
Lovely, lovely. Next one. One word to describe childhood.
Wonder.
Yes, that wonder. Yeah, true. All right, the next one. Your go-to comfort food after a long gap.
Dal chawal, and sukha aloo, and mutton, like, which has been really bhunod.
Lovely, lovely. Mouth-watering. Okay. And finally, the last one. Libraries or bookshops? Which is your happy place?
Oh, that's not fair. Both.
Well, actually, if I were to be asked this question, I would have also answered in the same way. Both. I just love books wherever I can find them. Yeah. All right. Okay, Samina, so what a wonderful and delightful conversation, because I think we were talking about something which is very close to my heart also. Children, books, reading, libraries, women, all of that topics are very, very close to my heart. And I love the way you are, creatively exposing children to so many things which, like kind of take cognizance of the fact that a child also has the liberty, should have the liberty to do things the way they want to, at least for some time. Of course, when life happens and you have to, do whatever, at least childhood, you should be given the opportunity to be free. Like, especially that part where you mentioned that you gave them a piece of paper and just said, just put color on it. There was no definition, there was no boundary, no structure. How beautifully liberating the thought is. So, like I said, wonderful conversation, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it too. And thanks for doing this and making the place for this, and voices such as ours.
Yes, we all need to do something. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the About Her Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her Show.